As some of you may know, I run the tiering council for the Rush dueling server that also hosts our weekly point battle tournaments. We just finished collecting data and voting on the list you see here, which was immediately invalidated by the release of Scorching Flame Burst. I want to talk about the list we made, field my personal adjustments, and incorporate the newly released cards. The list was created as a reaction to the unhit of Resonance and the obliteration of the Hell Tuning Invasion skill. Aggro decks sport a positive matchup against every single other deck in the game, making it a clear top position. The Harpy deck won the Goha Rush Festival and has incredible consistency due to its ability to function without running any level 7 monsters. Sora, the world's best 7th Accel Road player, joined our community and started sweeping through events after the conclusion of the festival, and this led to the death of Magnum Overlord's representation as everyone swapped over to SAR builds. Moving into Tier 2, we have the newly released Dragonic Resonance, which remains the only deck in the game to do everything and do it well. If you have traps, Slayer is popping them. If you wall up, Dragius and Twin Edge Dragon can punch through. Bunker Strike fixes your hand, and the deck runs 8 advantage generating cards with Triad Drago and the Sports Dragons, all with a skill that makes winning combat effortless. Magnum Overlord had very similar ratings across the board, but just barely fell into 5th, likely in part due to its disappearance from tournaments. However, it's worth noting the deck not only dodged the ban list, but also had the biggest form of counterplay hit with the limit of King's Majesty. If this deck has life points, it can come back with an OTK from Magnum Overlord. Many players carefully calibrate their board position to avoid losing to maximum summons, but the introduction of Buffered Slime rips that option away, allowing Magnum to reduce themselves by 2,000 life, and simultaneously guarantee they see another turn. Rounding out the tier is Thunder, a deck with great results, but tempered by the high representation, nearly guaranteeing a top at some events. Despite several decks running 5 to 6 boss monsters, this deck earns a unique reputation for bricking. I would say this is largely in part from the hand management other decks on similar boss counts offer. Hell Tuning Invasion discards high levels with a skill, or Cobalt to Cobalt. Cyber stacks have a skill that ease summoning, and Dark Arts of Celerity had no qualms, summoning Yami Ruler turn 1, backed up by traps. And finally, the sole representative of Tier 3 is Servant of Dawn, a newly buffed deck that has immediately taken the tournament scene by storm. In the 3 events that have happened, it has hit top 4 and 1. It won a second and was used by both finalists in the 3rd. Even if we don't consider the new cards, the meta was on its way to shake up. Without Royal Rebels constantly nuking boards, the value of battle traps becomes much higher. Aggro decks love to swing in with 2500 attack point Dragius, and Harpies are often at 26. If the trap cards do start seeing a lot of play, Resonance could easily begin creeping up the list. But before that happens, I would expect Hysteric Forces to fall. Harpy players were gaining a ton of value from being able to rebuild their board after Invasion wipes it out. And they also benefited from Rebels only ever realistically fielding 2 monsters at once, both of which would have 0 defense and lose the shield and sword. Against a deck like Aggro instead, the 21 Harpies are a liability, and against decks with actual defense values on boss monsters, it becomes harder to win the damage race. You can use cards like Talismanic Seal Array to push for more damage, but every other deck can do that too. I think Harpies need another round of innovation if they want to keep succeeding the way they were previously. Next, I'd like to compare 7's Accel Road to Magnum Overlord. On the surface, the skills have similar qualities. Accel Road is an 800 buff. Overload is an 800 debuff. Accel Road gets you consistency by searching out Magician, while Overlord helps keep your maximum pieces in rotation until you find all 3. At the end of the day, I believe Overlord gains an edge over Accel Road by virtue of the instant win button that is the maximum monster. Overload is a much more oppressive skill, as it forces the opponent to play differently. An aggro player might actually choose to spend a turn not being aggressive, in fear of you turning the tides with Overlord, and that is a decision they would never even have to think about against any other deck. Overlord has gotten new cards to help it and seen the biggest counter removed from the game, and it has recently re-emerged and taken multiple top 4 spots in multiple events. Finally, Servant of Dawn has clearly outperformed many of the decks above it in recent events, and at the end of the day, it does bear a clear resemblance to Aggro. Let's talk about what makes them different. Pure Aggro has access to 2 key players in the level 4 slot, Accel and Light Sorcerer of Sanctity. Accel provides high roll value and sets up your advantage engines, while Light Sorcerer acts as a power-crept version of Thunder the Thunder with high roll potential by drawing multiples. In contrast, Servant of Dawn takes advantage of 1 tribute monsters to end on bigger boards more consistently. Speedy Performer takes the place of Sorcerer, and some builds focus on Super King Rex to supplement the consistency with Mega Zalor. The 1 tribute monsters also boast high defense stats, providing additional value to the Shield and Sword trap card. Despite the different card choices, both decks end up achieving similar goals. The key point for Hammer Crush Deal is its ability to clear back row, while Servant of Dawn builds double boss boards easier, and can even have Flame Cerebrus eat a Widespread Ruin by boosting above 2500, keeping Dragius safe. The decks are different enough that they are worth having separately on the list, but once we begin evaluating Scorching Fireburst, my opinion changes. The hot new deck from this set revolves around Fire Attribute Dragons. The skill provides a once per duel search of Dragon's Inferno from the deck or graveyard. As you can imagine, this ultimately leads to a third deck with a striking similarity to Hammer Crush Deal. And Fire Guardian takes on a similar role from Servant of Dawn's Flame Cerebrus, while Dragon's Inferno performs the same work as Hammer Crush, more consistently and without a discard. While the deck is only able to run 1 Dragius, Shock Dragon is another board-clearing bomb, effectively acting as Talismanic Seal Array on legs. All 3 of these decks look pretty different, but have enough overlap that being 3 slots on the list distracts from everything else going on. So I've decided to combine them into 1 Dragius Turbo-themed slot, and it belongs squarely in position number 1. That isn't necessarily to say that these decks are the top 3 in order, but if a player is running any of these 3 decks, you should consider all 3 as options for any given meta environment. Noodle Ninjas come with a skill that provides a free +1 every turn, and they also have a new boss capable of inflicting 1000 burn damage. Resolving multiple copies adds up quickly, and the deck is certainly good enough to win a match against anything else in the game. However, the skill once again prevents Innocent Lancer from existing, leaving the deck without a great way to clear set 3 boards. Furthermore, the bosses all have 0 defense, and these 2 traits immediately call into question the deck's viability, as a player is now able to repeatedly set 3 cards, pass, and enter a race to see if they find Shield and Sword before the 1000 burn damage stacks up to lethal. Dragonic Residents and Harpies both also have a weakness to a well-timed Shield and Sword, but they offer enough pressure to kill the opponent that this leaves me feeling Noodles are a step below. And if we are talking about 0 defense boss monsters, I'd like to add 1 more deck to this list. I believe Death Doom Requiem is a solid deck that was probably overlooked by the Tiering Council. We didn't have a lot of time to test in a post-Hell tuning world, and I believe the deck is likely better than given credit. While it does have the same issues as Noodles, the effect of Death Doom is so overwhelmingly powerful that it single-handedly can win the game. The opponent will eventually need to do something apart from set 3, and as soon as they do, Death Doom wipes the board, deals a ton of burn damage, and then swings in for another 2500 alongside whatever other monsters you summon. Shadowbuyer and Phaser make resolving the combo more likely than it seems, and it is far and away the ultimate crackback in the game. Before we head out, I do want to spend a bit of time talking about the state of the game. I believe the new box was perfectly timed, and I also think it is an incredible box for new players, providing resonance and the much needed Dragias for cheap. But I'm somewhat concerned we have several other skills and cards leaked that didn't end up in this box. If we get another box in just a couple of weeks, it'll feel terrible for the content releases to be so small and close together. The Super Mini Box was incredibly mid, as though they took out random cards from the mini box just to sell another product later. And if they release a new Super Mini with the leaked cards, it's going to feel as though we should have gotten a regular mini combining them with this deck build box. We are also in another awkward situation with Buffered Slime. The card is really useful in Overlord and Psychic decks, but since it released alongside a deck build, it doesn't count towards the bundle. Rush Duel's most active and invested players are once again forced to see content release and go, I'm not going to play with this card for several months because I don't want to obtain packs of a product I already have. I think they could fix this by having a bundle that comes with a structure deck, allowing it to be opened immediately, while also reducing the paywall by providing another avenue of getting a structure with gems. Basically, you pay the extra 450 gems for the bundle card, and you get a second version of the structure. Thanks to everyone who watched till the end. I want to hear what you guys agree with, disagree with, and if there are any decks you think we've overlooked. As always, feel free to join the Discord server over in the description. If you'd like to get involved with the community for playtesting, deck feedback, or even things not related to Rush, we have a custom Pokemon TCG set, a ROM hack, and I'm even working on a completely original card game I'd love to see people try out.